Hello everyone, here's my tutorial for a quick and dirty protest mask. This wire is 1mm by 5mm and it's about 8 or 7 inches long. The piece of material I'm using is 9 by 11. This is a piece of cotton piping for glasses and no fog. You take your aluminum wire and some hot glue. Seal off the ends. If it's too much, you can pick it off or use a lighter to kind of glom it down a little bit more. Choose your top edge and then come to the sewing machine. About a 1/4 inch. Sew a seam all the way along the top edge. Take your material, fold it in half, and then along your bottom edge you can use a piece of tailor's chalk, which is super handy, to mark a point for an opening to be able to put in a filter. Should actually be a little bit less than that, probably 4 inches total. So I'll be using this inner line. Back to the machine, just using a straight stitch here. 1/4 inch again. Sew up to your line, and then I just pull it through to the next line and begin there. You snip the annoying 2 little pieces of thread. And then take these edges where your opening is and fold them back on themselves. Sew that line in on either side just a little bit. It doesn't need to be a very fat allowance. Same on the other side. Don't stress too much about getting your lines or your seams perfectly even with each other. You'll just never get anything done. This is not couture. Then you take your mask and turn it inside out. So your seams are on the inside. Now is the tricky part. If you would like to put in a piece of cotton piping for anti-fog for glasses. Once you've flipped your material inside out, take your piece just under 7 inches, same as the bar, and slide it into the material and wedge it up against the top seam. Leaving 2 inches on either side for equal allowance. This size fits best on adults with medium to large faces. You can adapt this to be smaller for smaller faced individuals. Alright, so once you have the piece centered, piping, you come back to your machine, 1/4 inch allowance for the seam, sew a seam all the way across the top. It's much easier to put the cotton piping in first and then sew your seam around it, as opposed to sewing the seam first and then trying to stuff your piece of cotton in. Then you take your bar and you can wedge it inside just behind the piece of cotton. Once again, if your glue job is a little bit too rough, you can just take a lighter to it and it should smooth out all the little ridges. Make that a little bit easier to thread. So you'll want to back the wire on the other side of the piping, so you have a little padded area on the back and the wire on the front. Evenly spaced. If you want to, you can come down to the bottom and add another seam just to make it nice and flat. Totally optional. You'll want to stop where your opening is and jump to the other side. Cut the 2 pesky strings. Now the fun part is the folding. The most important part is to have from the wire down enough space to go reasonably far up the nose before your first fold. I like to do 2 fingers down and then 1 up. So 2 fingers behind the back, and then 1 in the front, and then you can just fold it down on top of each other, 1 finger width, or about 1/2 inch of the actual folded part. I'll take some pins and pin each side. And then repeat 2 fingers, 1 finger. One more time. 2 fingers, and that's from the top back fold there. So you're putting your top finger right at the folded edge and then folding down. This whole thing is now 3.5 inches tall, folded. Back to the machine. You go to the edge and sew it down. Keeping your folds in place. I like to pull my needles out of the way because otherwise they all end up getting bent. Same on the other side. Still using about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Remove your pins. You should have a seam on each side, a seam across the bottom with a little pocket for filters, coffee filters, HEPA filters, whatever your preference is. Roll of cotton at the top, wire on the other side. Now you take this edge and you fold it towards the back of your material. You're going to fold it twice so that the raw edge is on the inside of the material. So once, twice. Now you have a little roll towards the back face. Pin in place. This will be your string hole to thread, shoelace, or other type of tie through. Now that it's rolled, you want to make sure you're not overlapping on the piece of metal. Back to the machine. Stitch down should look like this. Repeat on the other side towards the back of the material. 1 fold, 2 folds. You shouldn't be touching your bar on either side of your mask. Now you have a mask. And what you'll do is take whatever you're using for a tie around the edge and thread it through here. I use a 1-inch piece of cotton jersey, just a strip. To approximately 2 foot, a little less, pieces, and then you can pull this material and it turns into a cord. This makes very convenient cording very quickly. And it's slightly stretchy. It's always nice. Then taking your cord, you thread through the tunnel that you've sewn on either side. Da-da-da. And pull your piece of whatever you've chosen for ties through, and tie a little knot at the end to keep them from pulling back through. Repeat on the other side. You can do this a little bit easier than by hand with a safety pin. You can pin to one edge and then thread, and then just push the safety pin through a little bit at a time. Once you have both sides through and you've tied your knots, you have a mask. I like this design a little bit better because it scrunches up the sides and creates a better fit from under the chin to over the nose. So you want a good seal on your mask. Then go through and trim up all of your little edges, and you're done. This can be bent to form all the way across the face in a very nice, tight seal. It can be unbent. Because it's flat, it's fairly easy to get it back into its original shape. Best of luck there. Stay safe.